Hello everyone, welcome to this session on how to learn AWS and also learn what is AWS. So let us begin with this session. To start off, let us look at the agenda, what we're going to look in this session. So first we'll be learning what is AWS. Moving on, we'll learn why should you learn and why should you use AWS. And after that, we'll learn few AWS services so that we understand what exactly they provide, what services they provide and where we can use them. And then future of AWS, that is what kind of a future does AWS have and what kind of a future you have if you learn AWS. And then finally, how to learn AWS. So first, let us see what is AWS. AWS or Amazon Web Services, the full form of it, is a cloud provider which provides its users a wide range of services via the internet. So AWS is a cloud provider. They provide services through a website called aws.amazon.com. So they have their own website, which is a front end for us to use the AWS services. So the most known AWS service is EC2, which is basically launching yourself a server. You can launch yourself a server and you can host your applications on the AWS cloud all by yourself, and it is very simple to start with. Now, let me give you a story of an entrepreneur. So basically, let us consider you are the entrepreneur here. So first, you have an amazing idea for a startup. So you spend your entire time, you spend 2-3 months to develop your code and you create an application now. And after creating the application, you think, so how will I get a server? Servers are very expensive. How will I buy them and how will I run them? And also I'll have to monitor, manage and apply patches, upgrade them. I have to do all these tasks. How will I do it all by myself? That will be a lot of tasks, and also that will cost me more. It will be very expensive for me. So then a friend of him, or he saw a YouTube video or whatever, he got to know about AWS. He got to know about a cloud service. So now what he thought, he learned a little about AWS and he learned how to serve his application on an AWS server. So what he did, he successfully did that and he saved a lot of money. So how did he save money here? In AWS, if you host or if you serve your website, you only pay for the server and the time you use on that server. You don't pay for managing, for monitoring, for deploying it or applying patches, upgrading it, for nothing. You'll have to pay for just the time you use that server, nothing else. The monitoring cost, everything is taken care by AWS. So for example, you buy a server. You don't buy a server, you rent a server. So you rent a on-demand server. So you can rent an on-demand server for $0.02 per hour. So consider for a single person, he'll not have that much of capital. So he cannot invest $2,000, $3,000 at a go. So what he'll do, he can invest on AWS per hour. If it is $0.02, then for 100 hours, it'll be $2. So I think a person who's able to develop an application can afford $2 for 100 hours of his application. So now, suddenly after some time, your application is getting hits. So many people are starting to liking your application. So they are trying to buy stuff or whatever your application is concerned of. So if it is a food order application, many people are ordering from your application. So when you get a lot of hits, now what you can do, you don't need to do anything else. You just have to upgrade your plan with AWS. You just have to scale up with AWS. But for this, you can set up an auto scaling policy. What is an auto scaling policy? Let me explain that now. So you have your application hosted on a AWS server. So now, before you were getting 100 users were using your application. So one server was more than enough to keep them at bay. So in that one server, 100 users were able to seamlessly use it, get information back, order food, whatever. But now, as your application is getting popular and popular, you need a large amount of servers. You will need, for example, let us say now there are 300 users. So if one server can accommodate 100 users, then for 300 users, you will need 3 different servers. So now AWS will provide you 2 more servers once your first server is getting a lot of hits. You can set up as such when the workload on your first server is getting high, then AWS will automatically provide you another server. And when the workload is getting high in both of those, it will give you another server. So here you will not be paying for creating these servers. You will be only paying for the time you have used these servers. So now what if your application is not getting that many hits? Well, let us consider your application is not that much of a hit right now. It goes by 100 users down. So before it was 100, then it became 300 users. Now it is just 200 users. So now, if your application's customer base reduces, AWS, you can set up a policy which basically checks the workload decrease. So if your workload decreases, you should provide a threshold, and if your workload goes below that threshold value, AWS will automatically take off one server. So right now you're not doing anything. Your application is working normally. AWS is providing you servers. It is deleting servers. Whenever there is an increase in your traffic, it provides you more servers. Where there is a decrease in your traffic, it reduces few servers. So right now your cost is also managed because you only pay for the hours these servers are used. You don't pay for the hours when these servers are stopped or when these servers are deleted. So this will make sure your cost, your capital on cloud is very less. So this is why people prefer AWS. So for a single person, for one application, if it can save this much amount of money, consider for an entire organization. So Netflix is one of the organization which is all in on AWS. So Netflix entire architecture is hosted on AWS. They don't do anything. They don't have an on-premise setup. They don't have their own servers. All of their servers are rented from AWS. They pay AWS. They take care of everything else. They just host their softwares and host their movies and series on that. So moving on. So before cloud, before AWS, you had to do all of these. You had to maintain the servers, and obviously the expenditure will be very high because you'll be doing all of these by yourself. And then you also have to take care of security. You should build your code accordingly that it is secure. You should keep your infrastructure accordingly that it is secure, and also scalability and flexibility. So scalability, as I told you, AWS provides you more servers when traffic increases. They'll reduce the amount of servers when traffic decreases. So now scalability and flexibility before AWS, you will have to take care of. So you should increase the server whenever there is a traffic increase. You should decrease the server whenever there is a traffic decrease. But you would have already bought 3 servers. Even if you decrease 2 servers according to the traffic, those 2 servers which you have bought will be idle. So that is a waste of money. So that's where AWS came in, and they provided these benefits. One, data privacy and security, because your entire architecture is hosted by AWS, and obviously their data centers are very secure and they do not allow any malpractices, and also their network architecture is built so that no attacks are made on them, and no maintenance worries because AWS takes care of our entire maintenance of our servers and other services. And then faster data recovery. So if you own few servers, if those servers are destroyed, or if there is a natural calamity happening, if those servers are gone, your data is lost. But in cloud, you can store your data in multiple regions. So when one region goes down, you can get your data back from another region. Scale dynamically. This I explained with an example. Whenever there is a traffic increase, you can scale up. Whenever there is a traffic decrease, you can scale down. And all of these benefits together, it will reduce all your costs. So if it scales dynamically, then yes, costs will be reduced. If faster data recovery, yes, your costs will be reduced because you don't need to have multiple storage locations all by yourself, and no maintenance worries. Again, this will reduce costs. You don't need to hire a professional who will be maintaining all these servers, and data privacy and security, they'll take care of it. Now, let us look at some facts of AWS. So first, the largest companies in the world. Netflix, Reddit, Expedia, and NASA are few examples of whom use AWS. So NASA is a very huge organization. They are the #1 space exploration organization in the world. And Netflix is one of the best media streaming platforms, and Reddit is one of the best social media sites, and Expedia, it is also a huge company. So all of these companies use AWS for their hosting needs and for their cloud needs. So if a company like Netflix and NASA can use AWS, why can't your startup? Then AWS provides 165 different cloud services right now. So the number of services AWS provides are increasing day by day. They are working on a lot of services. Right now they provide AWS for machine learning. They provide AWS for artificial intelligence. They provide a lot of services right now, and they are keep on increasing every day. And then on average every minute, consumers view 7 million videos online, ask Siri 100,000 questions, and also buy $222,000 worth of items from Amazon. So these all happen in just 1 minute, and you know what? All of these are hosted on AWS. And also there is one more fact that 1/3 of any website you go online is hosted by AWS. There is a very good chance that 33% of all websites you visit are hosted on AWS. And also AWS had a 47% staggering public cloud market, because the top 3 clouds are AWS, Azure, and GCP. And comparing these 3, AWS had 47% of the cloud market. Not comparing all the cloud domains, not comparing IBM or Oracle, just comparing the top 3, AWS has 47% of that market. And finally, now AWS has its data centers in 69 different availability zones across the world in 22 geographic regions. Geographic region in the sense countries. For example, in the US it has like 4 different regions, and in 4 different regions it has multiple availability zones. So like that it has in many regions, and also 69 availability zones. And also they are building in 3 more availability regions. So you can see Indonesia, Italy, and South Africa are some of the recent countries which they are working on to bring more availability zones. So why? Because that will increase the data availability. Now moving on. So these are some other cloud providers: Azure, Google Cloud, Alibaba Cloud, IBM Cloud, and VMware. So Azure is the second after AWS. AWS is the #1 in the cloud industry. Second comes Azure, third comes Google, and the others keep on changing. Their market share changes. So Azure is the same as AWS, but it is a service provided by Microsoft. Google Cloud again is a similar service to Azure and AWS, but it is provided by Google. And same goes with other services also. With Alibaba Cloud, it is an Alibaba's cloud service, and IBM is IBM's, and VMware is a separate cloud service. They provide you virtualized environments, they provide you servers, and they provide the same services as Azure and AWS, but they are not popular as that. They are still used by many organizations, but still AWS is the #1. Now, why use AWS? So this is one of the main topics we have to discuss now, because if we understand why we should use AWS, then we can go and learn AWS. So first I'll tell this. So first, Amazon leads the race to the cloud. The #1 cloud in just a second. So the #1 cloud provider in the world is Amazon. Second comes Microsoft, then comes Google, IBM, Alibaba, Salesforce, and Oracle. So if you see in the Q2 of 2019, this means that the second quarter, the second 3 months of 2019, Amazon had a 33% public cloud market share. So if it had a 33% market share, then you can assume that if there are 100 jobs in the cloud domain, 33 of those jobs will be from Amazon. So if you study Amazon, you have a higher percentage of getting a job than studying Alibaba or Salesforce or Google. So as said, AWS has a higher market share, and because of that, it has higher job opportunities. Now going back to this slide. So these are a few more examples of why you should use AWS. First thing, it has a simple and per hour billing. That means you don't get billed for the entire month. If you're launching a server, using it for 1 hour and stopping it forever, you'll only get billed for that 1 hour. You will not get billed for that entire month because you have a server, but it is not running. You'll only get bills for the running hours of that particular service. And then Amazon's brand name. As you know, Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world, and Amazon.com gave him that status. So Amazon is a very widely popular name. It is one of the biggest names in the internet industry, and yes, that also adds value to AWS because Amazon Web Services, it has the name Amazon in it. And finally, easy profile setup. To start off with AWS, you don't need to know programming languages, you don't need to understand cloud, you don't need to understand any technicalities. You just have to know how to fill in a form and also how to fill in your credit or debit card details. If you fill in them and hit enter, you are good to go. Then after that, you should start learning about AWS. So any person could start off with AWS. That is why it is widely popular. Now moving on. Now let us look at some AWS services. So let us try to understand few AWS services. This is to give you an idea of what AWS provides, what they offer. So first, AWS offers domains. AWS offers services on all of these domains. One is compute, then database, storage, migration and transfer, customer engagement, security, identity and compliance, then management and governance, and also networking and content delivery. So these are some domains. There are a lot of domains still, but these are some domains. These are one of the most used domains. So compute, database and storage are very used domains in AWS. So these are some domains which AWS provides us. Now let us look into few services from compute, from database, from storage, from security and management, and also content delivery. So let us look into some services and let us discuss them and let us see how they work. So first, I obviously have to say EC2 because EC2 is the most popular service. If you're starting with AWS, I would suggest you to start off with EC2 because EC2 is the basic and integral part of the AWS ecosystem. Any service uses EC2 because if you launch Elastic Beanstalk, so Elastic Beanstalk is basically a platform as a service. They provide you a service where you can put your code and it will automatically provide you a DNS name where your website is hosted. So now you will just see the website where there is a DNS name and your code is uploaded, but you will not see where your code is hosted. So that code will be hosted in EC2 server. It will be hosted in an EC2 server in the backend, in the data server. So right now, they also provide a service called EC2 that is called Elastic Compute Cloud. So Elastic Compute Cloud is a virtual machine service. So what they do, they provide you a server in any data center which you choose from. For example, if you choose Mumbai, the server in Mumbai, so they provide you a EC2 server which is hosted in the Mumbai data center, and you can use that. You can use that server to launch your applications. You can host your databases. You can host your websites and all that. You can also choose for example, you can choose a server or a region in USA also. You can also create a server sitting in another country in US also. For example, if you're in, let us say you're in Russia, and from Russia you're trying to host a website in US. So you can just choose a region from USA, and in that region you can launch a server, and in that server you can launch your website. So right now from Russia you have launched a server in USA. So that's what capability and flexibility that EC2 provides. So you can see EC2 enables on-demand scalable computing capacity in the AWS cloud. As I already told you, if you have one EC2 server, you can make it larger also. For example, if this server has 2 GB of RAM and let us say 10 GB of storage space. So now you need a bigger system. So you don't need to create another one bigger. You just can you can just modify this server to have more storage space and also a higher processing power of like 10 GB of RAM. And coming to scaling part, if you enabled auto scaling, so that means whenever there is a need, you can create multiple copies of this server. That is, whenever there is a traffic increase, it will create one more server and again one more server according to the needs, and also it will reduce one server whenever there is a traffic decrease. So EC2, as I told you, if you are starting with AWS, start off with EC2 because it is the most integral part of AWS ecosystem and it provides you scalable computing capacities. So now let us go and look at the next service. The next service is RDS. It is a relational database service. So this service provides you access to relational databases which are hosted on AWS. So you can see there are 6 different database engine options. One is Amazon Aurora, one is MariaDB, one is PostgreSQL, one is Microsoft SQL Server, then MySQL and Oracle database. So these are the 6 different database engines which RDS provides us. You can choose one of these database engines to host your database needs. So RDS provides a console, a web service. You can go to the RDS console, you can choose one of these databases, and then you can use this database. You will get an endpoint for this database, you'll get a port number for this database, and you can use this endpoint and port number like how you normally use a database. For any database hosted locally, you will have its own local name. That is, for example, if you use XAMPP or WAMP, you will have the name called localhost, and port number would be 3306 for MySQL, and the exact same thing happens in RDS also. But here they'll give an endpoint which will redirect you to the database which is available on the AWS server. So you should use that endpoint instead of the localhost name. You should delete the localhost name, put your endpoint there, and then in the port number, it is the same port number, it is 3306. Then you should provide the username and password which you use to create this particular database on AWS. So now you might be thinking, okay, you might know MariaDB, PostgreSQL, MySQL and all the others, but you might not know what is Amazon Aurora. Amazon Aurora is a database service provided by RDS. Amazon Aurora supports MySQL and PostgreSQL. So it has this completely different architecture. So Amazon Aurora is a database cluster, not a single database, but I'm not going to go into Amazon Aurora. Just I wanted to clarify what is Amazon Aurora. You can create a database in Amazon Aurora in either MySQL or a PostgreSQL engine, and it will give you multiple databases. It will give you one write database and one read database. So this is a database service. Now moving on, let us look at a storage service. And again, this is one of the most used service. EC2 and S3 were the first AWS services which got launched in the year 2006. So to start off AWS, we can say EC2 and S3 are the most integral parts of the AWS ecosystem. S3 is the storage. It is called Simple Storage Service, and it is an object storage service. It offers industry-leading scalability, data availability, security, and also performance. It is very simple, guys. You should create a bucket. A bucket is basically like a folder. So inside that folder, you can upload your content. For example, a PDF. You can upload your PDF to that folder. That folder is hosted on AWS. It is like a Google Drive. You host your folder there, and inside that folder, you create multiple files. You upload files. You can also download those files whenever you want. So it is basically a bucket service. So you have this bucket and you put all the content. For example, you have a bucket in your hand and you have some objects. You just throw them inside, and whenever you need that object, you leave your hand inside and take it. For example, if you want a ball from that bucket, you just leave your hand, select the ball and take it out. The same thing happens here. You will be able to see all the contents inside that AWS bucket, that AWS S3 bucket, and you can choose that particular object and download it. So it is a simple storage service. Basically, you can think of it as a service like Google Drive. You can upload your contents to Google Drive and download it whenever you want, and same goes with S3. And then a networking service called CloudFront. So you might have heard this concept called CDN, a content delivery network. You might or may not have heard. So I'll give you an example of a CDN using YouTube. So YouTube has so many videos. Every minute there are like 100 hours worth of content getting uploaded to YouTube. So where does YouTube store all of this content? It has to store it somewhere, right? So it stores it in a CDN. It stores it in a content delivery network. So how does a content delivery network work? So you are a user trying to access from Asia. So now what you do, you might think whenever you try to access a video, it goes to the server and brings back it again to you. But it does not work like that. So you have your origin server where all of the content is, or you can also have multiple edge locations where few of your content is. So in YouTube, you might have this content restricted to a particular country. So those restrictions could be made using a CDN. So this edge location is only for Asia. So whenever an Asian user is trying to access data, it takes from this edge location. And when an African user is trying, it takes from this. And when a European user is trying, it takes from this particular location. And all of these locations are connected to the origin server. If this particular location does not have the content, it does not say, I don't have the content. It goes back to the origin server, collects the data and stores it here and sends it back to the end user. So basically a content delivery network is used to deliver data, videos, applications to customers globally. You can set up edge locations in any location in the world, in any location where AWS is providing services. You can set up in any location and it provides high availability of data and videos in all of those locations. Moving on, now a security service. It is a simple service. This service is called Identity and Access Management. So this service provides you access management service. So basically you might have given credentials, you might have created multiple users in your AWS account. And for example, not all of those users do the same tasks. One of those users might be an admin, one of those user might be a web developer, and one might be a data scientist. So a web developer does not need all the services in AWS. He just needs the EC2 server where the HTML code, the JavaScript is hosted on. And a data scientist does not need to know about the EC2 server, how it is hosted, all the web code. He just needs the metric data. He just needs the data coming out from AWS, and admin requires all the access. So using IAM, you could particularly restrict these users to use only those particular services. So that is why you use IAM. You can create permissions and assign it to particular users so they cannot go beyond those permissions. And finally, CloudFormation. This is a service which provides you infrastructure as code. So you can code your entire infrastructure into one file, and when you run that one file, it will create an entire architecture for you. For example, in that code you would have mentioned, I need 10 servers, I need this much of storage space, I need a database service. So you can just code it into a YAML or a JSON file and upload it to AWS CloudFormation and hit enter and run that code. And that code can be uploaded locally, or it can be uploaded to an S3 bucket, and when you run that code, it will automatically create an entire AWS architecture for you. So to learn CloudFormation, you should first understand what is AWS. I wanted to explain these services to make you understand what kind of services that AWS provide. And now let us see how to learn AWS. So we saw some services. Not all of you might have understood what exactly does these services do. But now I'll show you some ways how you can start learning AWS. So obviously the first way to learn AWS is YouTube. We have some very good videos which are ranking in YouTube. We have an AWS tutorial for beginners, and we have a video which distinguishes between AWS and Azure, and also we have AWS certification videos. You can go through all the videos we provide and get to know and also learn some hands-ons and projects from our YouTube. And this is one of the way you can learn. There are a lot of useful tutorials on YouTube. And the second way you can learn is going through blogs and tutorials. We also have a very helpful blog on AWS. You can just type AWS tutorial Intellipaat and you'll get it. You can just go through, read it completely to understand what exactly AWS is and also understand the AWS concepts. And then AWS free tier. So AWS provides a free tier option which basically lets you use AWS for free for 12 months. So you get 12 months of free usage, and also you get free trials for some software solutions. And Some services are free and available to everyone. So these services, if you create an account, those are free and they provide it to you immediately. They don't keep it. You can use few services like Amazon EC2 server. You can use a particular type, a T2.micro instance. You can use that for 750 hours free per month. So for example, if you launch 5 servers, all of those 5 servers should run only for 750 hours totally. If it goes beyond 750 hours, then you will be charged. But 750 hours is a lot of hours. So you can utilize this to practice EC2, and S3 storage is provided for 5 GB. You can use 5 GB of storage space, and for DynamoDB, it is a database service. You can use 25 GB of that space, and for RDS, which is again a relational database service, you can again use 750 hours. So this is one more way. This is a way to learn hands-ons and do hands-ons to practice them. So you can use AWS free tier to learn AWS. And finally, you can also take up a course provided by Intellipaat. Intellipaat provides a through and end-to-end AWS course for solutions architect and also others. So right now, let us look what kinds of features that we provide in our course so that we can teach you everything so that you can clear your certification and also land a job. So now, this is the course we provide, that is AWS training course for solutions architect certification. We cover a lot of concepts. First, let us look at the key features we provide. First, we provide you an instructor-led training for 36 hours. And also we provide self-paced videos for 40 hours. So these are separate and these are separate. So instructor-led training are live trainings where you can interact with the trainer. Self-paced videos are already made videos which are uploaded, which you can use for learning. And also you get 32 hours of exercises and projects. We provide you assignments which you will have to solve, and also we have a project at the end of the course which is a complete use of all the services you have learned in the AWS course, and you should put all of that together, create an architecture to host a project. And also we provide job assistance for anyone who has successfully completed the course, and also we have a flexible schedule. You can we have classes on Saturdays and Sundays. You can also schedule it accordingly, and also you have lifetime free upgrade. Whenever the course is upgraded, you can come again and take up the course once again for your entire life. And also we provide 24/7 lifetime access and for support access. For example, if you have a doubt right now, you can just mail it to us and we'll read that doubt and we'll clarify it to you then and there. So these are some key features we provide if you take up our course. And also you get Unix shell scripting course free with this course if you take it up. So this is for just self-paced, and this is for both self-paced and online classrooms. And also if you take any one of this course, you get access to Unix shell scripting for free. Why Unix shell scripting? Because it is one of the important concepts you should learn if you're learning AWS. And you will learn all of these concepts. You will learn how to effectively design an AWS architecture. You will learn how to cost effectively create that architecture, and also load balancing. And you will learn how to bring in your on-premise applications into AWS. You learn how to migrate them, how to launch databases, how to use them, how to securely create an architecture, and also you will be learning these topics which will private cloud. You will be learning IAM and monitoring, and finally, as I told you, you will have some AWS projects. You will be taught to create a multi-tier website using AWS EC2, and you will also be taught to do other projects. You can check in this course page. So you will also be given this certificate of completion once you complete this course, and we Intellipaat are recognized by 80+ MNCs like Ericsson, Cisco, Cognizant, Sony, and few more. So you will get this, and also if you complete this course, you will understand all the AWS concepts which are more than enough to clear the AWS Solutions Architect certification. So guys, now let me go back to the slides and show you one more interesting thing. So for anyone watching this particular live right now, you get to use this coupon code YouTube30. you can use this coupon code YouTube30 and get a 30% off on any course you are preferring to take up. If you're preferring to take up AWS Solutions Architect, use this code right now and take up your course right now. So guys, we have come to the end of this session. I hope you understood what is AWS and why should you take up AWS, and also why should you use AWS for your organization. Now, we've come to the end of this session. If you have any query, you can contact us directly. You can mail it to sales@intellipaat.com, or you can call to any of these numbers provided over here. So thank you for attending my session and have a good day.